After a rough result down at Vicarage Road on Saturday, Boro head to Leicester City in hopes of turning our form around. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Project Boro Preview Show, where today we are looking ahead to Boro's trip midweek to the King Power Stadium to face Leicester City. And it's safe to say you've got two teams at the moment who are struggling, not in the greatest form in the world. Boro, of course, have come off the back of a tough defeat at the weekend. You could say, 2 wins in our last 7 games isn't great. Equally, the performances haven't been great, since the Pompey game prior to the international break. 4 of the last 5 games, Boro haven't been very good in, if we're honest. Some games we've gotten the result, some we haven't. But after the weekend, question marks have certainly been raised and have gotten louder around Boro's lack of, knowing our best 11 and knowing our front line. And I think the concerns around Boro's lack of creativity and fluidity and cohesion and just overall effectiveness in the forward areas is starting to become more and more apparent, and is starting to maybe make fans feel a little bit more doubtful of Boro's current predicament and what we're capable of at the moment. And we're just hoping that we can stumble across the right formula and we can see Rob Edwards stick with it. Unfortunately, we look no closer to finding that. Will Leicester be the day? We'll have to wait and see, but Leicester themselves are really, really struggling at the moment. They're going through a really rough run of form right now. They've dropped down the table, and of course the pressure on Cifuentes and just the overall club at the moment is starting to drive up a little bit. You've seen Will Still lose his job at Southampton. The pressure on these relegated clubs is absolutely huge, and at the moment Leicester are not exactly delivering on pre-season expectations. So let's take a little look at Leicester City then, because as I alluded to, Boro aren't in great form. Leicester are arguably in even worse form. They're currently 14th in the Championship. 4 wins, 5 draws, 4 defeats, 15 goals scored, 14 conceded. A pretty mediocre start for a side that has been relegated from the Premier League. Granted, they have come down with numerous off-the-field issues as well. I still think there is a looming points deduction hovering above Leicester. I honestly have no idea what's going on with that and why it's not been resolved as yet. But I think it is likely they will get a points deduction, which at this moment, could drop them towards the bottom end of the league, the bottom 3 potentially, depending on the points they lose. So they really need a head start on everyone else if they are to be in the top 6, in the top 2, and if anything, they're falling behind everybody else, especially with their most recent form. They've won only 1 of their last 9 league games. I believe it was a win over Swansea City. Up until the last few games, they weren't winning, but they weren't losing as well. I think last month and prior to the international break, they'd drew 5 of their 6 games at one point, so they were picking up points, but maybe just not enough. However, things have taken a major downturn in the last couple of weeks because they've lost their last 3 straight games. They lost to Hull 2-1 away from home, 1-0 away at Millwall, and of course at the weekend they lost 2-0 at home to Blackburn Rovers, who have been struggling towards the bottom end of the Championship. They haven't won in any of their last 4 home league games, although their defeat at home this weekend against Blackburn was their first home defeat of the season. They've been drawing a lot at the King Power, 2 wins, 3 draws, 1 defeat. However, one thing I noted, it was regardless of home form not maybe being that bad, or them just not winning enough maybe at home, but not losing too many either. Their away form's not great either, to be honest with you. I think looking at the away league table, they're 15th, only won 2 of their 7 home games. Away games, should I say. Regardless, the one thing I noticed and took away from their game against Blackburn that I did watch live was that I think they are a team who at the moment are under huge pressure. And I think especially at the King Power, it was interesting to see how quickly things turned in that stadium against Blackburn. It did not take much for the Leicester crowd to start getting a little bit restless, a little bit anxious. That had a massive effect on the players on the pitch. You could see Leicester players were trying to overplay, trying to force things. Every error was being sort of met with jeers and boos, and yeah, it's not a happy place right now. And I thought to myself while watching that, yeah, we still had Watford to play later that day, but I thought this is a home crowd that you can absolutely take advantage of right now as an away side. And if Boro can go there and frustrate, and especially get the first goal, the game is ours for the taking, because the Leicester fans will turn, they will be frustrated, they will start losing it with their own team, and that won't help their players on the pitch, and it should only hopefully encourage Boro. And we saw it against Blackburn. They grew with confidence in that game. They grew into the game because they were getting more of the ball, they were getting more of the play. The Leicester fans were starting to, as I say, get restless. It just helped the opposing side. And I think Boro can feed off of that 100%. And one thing I've noticed as well with Boro this season, I think we've took the lead 7 times this season and we've not lost any of them. We might have won the majority of the games we've actually took the lead in. However, when we go behind, we've yet to win from behind. We've drew a few, but we've also lost a few, albeit, you know, we come back well against Preston and Southampton. We did lose to Watford and Pompey. So the first goal in Boro games is huge, and I think especially in this game, if Boro get the first goal against Leicester, I think the game is there for us. However, we must not rest on the fact that they do have good players still, and it is the sort of place where if they can, you know, if you give their team and their crowd confidence and encouragement and the chance to get up and get excited and create an atmosphere, it can also then turn and be a very difficult place for the away side as well. So definitely something Boro can capitalise on if we get the first goal. But yeah, we're not doing great. We have no idea what our best team is. We're all over the place really with our front line at the moment, falling down a rabbit hole essentially. Leicester's form is essentially just falling down a rabbit hole. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things pan out on Tuesday night. Looking at Leicester's numbers then in a little bit more detail, they are an attacking side that are underwhelming massively on the players that I think they have, and they're also massively overperforming defensively. They should have conceded a lot more than what they have, and have maybe gotten a little bit fortunate in the defensive side of things. So going forward, it's not all that flattering. They're 15th in the Championship for goals scored. They've scored 15 goals. It's not great, and it's very average and pretty underwhelming for a side with Leicester's quality and expectations. Completely mirrored by their expected goals as well. They're down in 16th for expected goals. Their expected goals, their data completely matches the goals that they've scored. So they have basically delivered on what their data suggests, and that is that they've been a very, very average attack. 16th in the Championship is not that great. They are still ahead of Boro, but only just. And we've had plenty to sort of moan about when it comes to our attack, and Leicester are barely much better than us in that department. So that just shows you that even though you look at their individuals and you think, wow, they've got some good players, as an attacking unit so far this season, they've been very, very underwhelming. Their data and their goals scored completely backs that up. You look at other attacking numbers as well, very disappointed. They're 19th for big chances in the Championship, 16th for big chances missed. They have a lot of accurate passes, a lot of possession, but they just don't do anything with it. They've had the third most possession in the Championship this season, but maybe a bit like Boro, when they get into them attacking areas, they just don't know what to do with it. So yeah, 0-0 written all over it, I guess. Looking at their defensive numbers, this is where you see that they've overperformed enormously. In the goals conceded, they've got the 8th best defence in the Championship. And you'd say, wow, that's pretty good. You know, they've only conceded 14 goals. Boro have only conceded 11. And, you know, we've had one of the best defences in the Championship. In fact, it was the best up until we let in 3 against Watford. So you think, well, they've only conceded 3 more goals than Boro. They've got a fairly good defence then, Leicester. No, they've been quite fortunate, because whereas they've only conceded 3 goals less than what Boro have, or 3 goals more than what Boro have, we've got the best expected goals against in the whole of the league. We've gave up the least number of big chances in the entire league. Leicester have conceded the 6th most. They are 6th for expected goals against, which is huge, really, for a side with their quality. They have an expected goals against of 18.7, and yet they've only conceded 14. So really, that's telling you that they should have conceded 5 goals, maybe more than what they have done. So they actually are one of the worst sides in the league at giving up big chances. yet they have one of the best defences. So I don't know if that tells me that their goalkeeper has maybe performed really well. Maybe they've had a goalkeeper between the sticks who's done exceptionally well. Or maybe they have come up against sides who just on their day have happened to not take their chances, essentially, and have just come up against sides who, fortunately for Leicester, have been relatively wasteful, possibly. So there's a number of ways that you can potentially look at that, but the data essentially tells you that Leicester should have conceded a lot more goals than what they have, which might give Boro some encouragement, but of course that encouragement can only be backed upon if Boro actually create chances themselves. Looking at Leicester's team then, this was what they started the last game with against Blackburn. It was a 4-2-3-1. Again, there's players in that team who've got plenty of Premier League experience, who, you know, you'd think would be good players at this level. They've got a back four that screams to me that it's quite a physical back four, but not much pace. So I don't know if Boro can set up in a way that can maybe get in behind that Leicester defence, you know, Vestergaard. I'm not too familiar with Acoli as a centre-back, but I feel like it is definitely a defence to be gotten at, as I've mentioned with the numbers. Obviously, they have got you'd say on paper, a decent midfield. Harry Winks is in there, and he's a very experienced player who's played at the absolute highest level, but it is in them forward areas where there's good names in there who just aren't delivering. You know, Mavididi and Fatawu on either side, last time they were in the Championship, absolutely tore it to shreds. And Fatawu on his day is still an exceptional player who I look at and feel very fearful of when I see him on the pitch. He's an incredibly tricky player. He can go both ways. He's got great agility and acceleration and can score from miles out. He's got a great shot on him as well at times, has got quality in moments, but they can't just rely on him. You know, I've chatted to a couple of people about Leicester, and I've heard the words Fatawu FC, almost like if you stop Fatawu, you stop Leicester, and I do think there's maybe a bit of truth to that. You know, you look at the numbers amongst their players. Abdul Fatawu has the most goal contributions with 5. He's got 3 goals and 2 assists. There are a couple of other players who've chipped in. Jordan James has got 3 goal contributions, Ayew with 2, but again, for the players they've got, not really great numbers. Abdul Fatawu is the one that, you know, dominates them statistics from a Leicester point of view, and I do think it's going to be a big game for probably Matt Targett on the left hand side. If he can keep Fatawu quiet, I think that'll go a long way as to helping Boro secure a result here. I think you've got to just show him onto his right foot, show him down the line, and defend any balls that he puts into the box. Don't let him cut in on his left foot. Don't let him put a cross in, an in-swing cross, especially don't let him get a shot off, because he does have quality. So I think it's obvious that Matt Targett will be an important player for Boro, and I think his role up against Fatawu will be incredibly important. But there's not many other players at the moment in Leicester colours who are delivering all that much from an offensive point of view, and that then leads me on to the biggest conundrum in all of football right now. What will Boro's 11 look like? Your guess, ladies and gentlemen, is as good as mine. What will he go with? Will it be a 5-3-2? Will it be a 4-3-2-1? A 3-4-1-2? A 3-4-2-1? A 4-3-3? I have no idea. And I don't think he does either. But I will keep banging the drum that I've been banging for weeks. 3-4-2-1. Pick a front three and bloody roll with it. And I think, you know, you don't have to say anything about the back 8, to be honest with you. In the back 5, the midfield 2, Targett and Britton, I would like to see more from, I'm going to be honest, in terms of their, you know, quality of crossing. Although, you know, I do think at times they are putting balls into the box. You've only got Tommy Conway in there, not much height, not much physicality. So I think for me, if you're going to make use of the wing backs, they've got to get to the byline and put low crosses into the box. No point putting lofted, floated balls in, because I just don't think Boro are going to get any use from them. So I'm hoping if we can push the wing backs really high, they can get in behind Leicester's defence, get to the byline, low balls into the box. That will suit Tommy Conway miles better than putting high crosses in. We've seen from pre-season at times this year, he's very good at being a poacher in between the sticks, in them, you know, in the 6-yard box, in the area, tapping the ball into the back of a net. So that's what I would like to see from both of them. I think out of the two, Hackney, Morris and Brown is the one who I think should go alongside Hackney. I'm not sold on Hackney being played further forward. I'm going to be honest. I'd much rather him be in the midfield, progressing the play from there, and then you have 3 attackers in front of him. You know, if you have Morris sat in there with Brown, essentially your back 8 are all defensive, which I don't think's helping Boro right now, and it's only the front three that are really going to do anything. So I'd have Hackney in there alongside Brown, probably, on form. Hackney can then drive the ball forward to the front three, and that's where you have three attackers, as opposed to Hayden Hackney in there as well. I'd bring in David Strelets, as I keep saying, as I will keep on saying. I think he needs a run of games to get used to the league. We need to stop chopping and changing. He absolutely has to be in there. Conway absolutely has to be in the 9 because of his energy, his press. We do need to see goals from him, though. I think he's missed 8 big chances this season, which is the most in the Championship. So we have to see Tommy Conway converting them chances. But he absolutely should be in the team for me. With Strelets, it's the other 10 that is the big conundrum. Is it Hansen? Is it Whittaker? Is it Bergzorg? Is it Nepan? Is it McGree? Honestly, I'd go with Riley McGree. And I'm saying that now because he did come on off the bench, which proves he's ready. I do obviously want us to take it easy with him and keep him as fit as we can, but quite honestly, I think Riley McGree would be a great number 10 in off the left, in a similar sort of role as to what he did under Michael Carrick. I think he's a fantastic footballer. You know, he's very good at picking the ball up in them tight areas. He'll distribute it quickly. He won't dawdle on it. He's got quality. He can pick a pass, and he's also not too bad when he goes for a shot as well. So I think for me, maybe if you want to find the best front three, we keep talking, don't we, about getting the foreign players, getting the new players used to the system, getting them bedded into the team. Well, why not put McGree in there? And then you've got essentially him and Conway, who are already used to the Championship, familiar with Boro, familiar with the squad, familiar with the other players around them. Strelets is the only one then who maybe needs to get up to speed. And if he's got 2 players with him who are used to being in this team, used to being, you know, in the Championship, McGree might be a good player to bring that familiarity into the front three rather than having 2 new Championship players, new to the league, in Strelets and Nepan maybe. So that's why I'm edging towards McGree. But if he puts Nepan in there, I won't complain either. But I absolutely want to go with a 3-4-2-1 with 2 10s in behind Conway. And if we see promising signs, just keep playing them and let them build relationships, let them build chemistry. And who knows, we might then go into Birmingham with some confidence, have another good performance there. You might have your front three going into the next block of games, which of course lead you into Christmas, which is really, really important. So that's what I would do. That's what I would pick. And finishing with my prediction. Well, you might think I'm mad, but I'm extremely confident about this game, and I cannot tell you where that confidence is coming from. Genuinely, I have no idea. I've just got a feeling in my gut that Boro are going to go there and win. And I think we'll play well. Again, don't know why. No idea why, but I've got 2-0 Boro in my head, and it won't leave my head, and I don't know why that is. I don't know what the feeling is. Maybe we get an early goal and, you know, turns their fans against them, and Boro are able to frustrate from there on in, manage the game as we often do. Maybe we'll nick a second later on. I have no idea why, and I might be lining myself up to be made to look like an idiot, but I just feel weirdly confident ahead of this game. I just don't know why. So I'm going to go 2-0 Boro, and I really hope for our aspirations of top 2, top 6, whatever it is, that is what happens, because we are at a point now where if we don't get results against Leicester and Birmingham, we might find ourselves, well, we will find ourselves outside the top 2 come the international break. We might even find ourselves out the top 6, which would be quite disastrous, given we've been in the top 2 since literally day 1, essentially, this season. So it's a big 2 games coming up. Here's hoping we can finally pick up a good result and a good performance more so. You know, we still have had results at times, but the performances just feel like they've not been good enough for a while. So I'm praying we can also put together a good performance at Leicester. And I'll be there once again. I'll be back on the travels to the away game. First time going to the King Power on Tuesday. So I'll try and do a match day vlog for you guys once again, as well as, of course, reviewing the game when I'm back at some point on Wednesday. So expect all that good stuff between now and, well, the end of next week, when then we'll obviously turn our attention to Birmingham City. So lots to come. If you are up for it, like the video to support the channel and the video, subscribe if you're interested and excited for all that good stuff, and leave me a comment below with your predictions and thoughts ahead of this one. And until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.